Can't believe it's Thursday again. How can it be Thursday? It's almost like Thursday comes around like once a week, right? It's amazing. I'm what's left of Russ Kane. This is the ABC of CBD, exclusive to Men's radio station. We are live. We are uncensored. Thursday, 6 o'clock, only means one thing. It is the hunk of hemp, the count of cannabinoids, the Maharaja of marijuana. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him. You love him. Ollie Mammon.
What up? Ta-da! Nice haircut, Russ.
Well, do you know what? Thank you. You're the first person to see it because I've been cutting my own hair, which is why it looks so rubbish, since January 2020. Nearly 2.5 years. I've been cutting my own hair. You've not had a haircut because your hair
December 2013.
So the last time you had a trim?
Yeah. No, trim's not really a cut though. No. Like Hannah will like cut my split ends off when I'm sleeping because she knows that if she does it when I'm awake, we're gonna have a ruck. So I mean, literally when I'm sleeping, she'll be like, zip.
Wow.
Get rid of the split ends.
She just sneak into your house.
That's it. She's the only person, if I wake up with her holding scissors above me, the only person I won't freak out at. Anyone else, I'll be like, what's going on?
She could be lulling you into a completely false sense of security.
I think
it could be a long con.
So I've got like 5 or 6 hairdressers on Mill Broadway, and every single one of them knows me. So either people I've grown up and seeing, people have cut my hair in the past or whatever. The last dude to cut my hair, every time we walk past, it's like this running joke. It's like, you hated my haircut so much that you've just grown your hair ever since. And it's like this running joke that he's the last person to ever put his blade near my scalp.
Oh, very weird. Right.
Very fun.
Time to pay the rent, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service, the cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
And like magic, we're back.
It's a different shirt. It's not the same shirt, guys. I know you think it's the same shirt. It's not the same shirt.
You've changed shirts during the advert?
But it's different from the one in the advert.
Oh.
It's newer. So the other one has literally fallen to pieces.
Was that when you were in status quo?
Basically, yeah. This one's cooler. It's got like little pockets and stuff. It's got loads of pockets to keep all my stuff in there.
And when you get older,
it's really cool.
And I'll give you a piece of advice. When you get older, you need more pockets.
Of course.
For more stuff. Fact. You actually need more pockets.
But also pockets are the way forward. As in anyone who has a piece of clothing without pockets will miss those pockets so much more than people who have pockets who don't use them.
Yeah, I know.
Would you rather have pockets and not use them or not have pockets at all?
No, I'd rather have pockets and not use them in case I need to use them.
Hell yeah.
That's how it is.
So I met Russ last week, guys, just to let everyone know. The strangest thing was he picked me up from the station and I looked at him from the side and I realized I've never seen him in 3D before and I've never seen him from the side.
Here we go. That's me.
But it's mental. I mean, he looks completely different. I mean, like if you think Russ looks like this in real, he looks nothing like this. He's like, he's just crazy. It's like literally crazy. Blew my mind. It was
very odd. So it was 71 shows that we'd done and we'd never met. So we thought this is just bonkers. And Ollie came over to my neck of the woods. I took him to a very, very old public house. And we had a hell of a good evening, to be perfectly honest with you.
Actually.
It was fun. It was lovely to meet and actually speak, not using a microphone and screen, but actually just across the table. It was charming.
Very, very.
And,
I'm a little bit
who
louder.
Thought that Ollie was only 4'8"?
I'm tiny. And who would have thought that Russ is actually Chinese? Seriously.
Now, we don't have any guests today, quite deliberately, because so many of you seem to enjoy the chit chat that Ollie and I did a few weeks, and there's lots to talk about. Some of it looking back, but more excitingly, looking forwards as well.
Exactly,
which is great.
It's called past and future, but we're also going to stick in a little bit about the present as well, because well, you know, without knowing where you've been or where you're going to go, you don't really know where you are, and that's also quite important.
Somebody said to me that 2 weeks ago, they said, if you don't know where you're going, every road will take you there.
Hell yeah.
I thought
Follow
that
your
was
feet.
good. Well, yeah, yes and no. And hello, Veronica Curran. Are you live? Well, even though I had my blood test today, as you can see, apparently I am still alive. So,
Veronica,
yes.
we are live. We are kicking to the point where if you message me right now, I won't respond. You can call me right now and I won't pick up the phone. And we're engaging this way. This is not AI. This is real. Veronica, we spoke about you today. I spoke about you with someone, and I was talking about how, you know, like I've got this viewer, this fan called Veronica. Okay, and that Veronica Curran, yeah, she's on every one of your shows. She is like the definition of a loyal fan, and I was like, I love Veronica. She's an
great.
Absolute superstar, and I just wanted to sing your praises again, just to say that. Thank you so much. You are as well known as me and Russ. If you know me and you know Russ, you know the name Veronica Curran, okay, which is kind of cool.
And interestingly, I had a long meeting in town today, and we're hoping eventually won't be till way, oh my goodness me, there she is, all the way from Santa Monica, California, the one, the only Gloria Miller.
I like Gloria too. We haven't heard Gloria's name for like a month and a half now. Where have you been hiding?
Well, who? Gloria? Well, she's got things to do. She's out in Santa Monica, just not far from LA. Was it half an hour by car? If the freeway's running well. Oops, morning chaos there. Morning. Oh, yes, it's very early there, isn't it? Of course it is. Gloria, a fantastic character who we had the most wonderful time out in Santa Monica. We went around the Fox studio. God, it was great. And
to be honest with you,
it was great.
I reckon mine and Gloria's trip of California would be slightly more smoke orientated, personally.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I don't think you can smoke on the entire
less about the lights and the mirrors and more about
not going to happen.
Fog.
Not going to happen. Anyway, fantastic people watching from California. It's exciting. I'm hoping, Ollie Mammon, and this would include you, that eventually we're going to have one or two events in town where everybody who watches the shows can actually finally meet in person. We'll give you so much of a heads up on that as and when.
Would love that.
I don't expect Gloria to come all the way over from LA, drive to LAX, fly for 11 and a half hours and go back. But everybody else, it would be just great to see. But now, what do we? I am really familiar with MadMed. What is that?
MedMed.
No,
don't need to see it.
What is it?
MadMed. MadMed or MedMen?
I have no idea. What is it?
I don't know what MadMed is. I know what MedMen is, but that's not Mad. No, I'm going to look into it, Gloria. Gives me something to look at. I'm going to write a note right now. MadMed. I'm going to look into it, find out what it's
a shop. About. Here we go. It's a shop.
MedMed.
Apparently. MadMed. Because I know you're
Is it called MadMed now? They've changed the
name
to it.
M-E-D if you're listening and not watching. It's a shop. And Gloria will be over in London, which means, Gloria, I can get thrown out of your club for the third time. It's a long story. It's got nothing to do with ABC. It's a cannabis. Here we go. Gloria's explaining. It's a cannabis shop.
Cannabis shop. I want to go there.
In Santa Monica.
It sounds like my favorite place to be.
It probably would.
I had a great conversation today. So I spoke to a buddy of mine today for like an hour and a half. Someone I haven't spoken to in like 2 years. And he is, you call it my closest Californian connection. All right. My closest medical cannabis Californian connection. This guy is an absolute hero. His name's Paul. He's, he was like proper grassroots. He set up his dispensary, in the 1990s.
We get it.
Okay. He's been doing this for years. And we were talking about this today, and he was talking about how, he's taken a step away from the industry over the last 3-4 years. And I was like, why? He goes, because of all the changes. And it led on to the similar sort of changes he experienced based on what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, about how, you're in this industry which is constantly evolving and adapting, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And, the mentality changes. You start off with an ethos of wanting to help. You then turn into an ethos of wanting to make money. And then it turns into an ethos of wanting to make more money. And next thing you know, everything which you cared about, starts to disappear. And, then the regulation comes in, and regulation actually in America actually went counterintuitive. It went more towards the commercialization of things, which therefore meant that patients were kind of left more and more in the dark. And we were talking to him, he was like, look, the medical system out here is dead. Like the cannabis world is buzzing. but it's not a medical system anymore. And it was just quite interesting to kind of have that conversation with him, because he was, you know, the fact that it's turned so recreational that actually cannabis as a medicine is kind of, you know, underneath all the bells and whistles of that Hollywood way of making everything look flashy. And do you understand what I mean? Like, so in Hollywood, everything is
not entirely though, but I'm concerned.
So it's like they started off in the 90s in America with a medical cannabis system designed for patients who needed cannabis for medicinal reasons. In 2015, 2016, there was a vote which made cannabis recreational, which means everyone who wanted it for medicinal purposes has the option to get it. But the focus of suppliers has changed. It's now no longer it's not sold as a medicine now, it's sold as a recreational product. And he was talking about how the ethos across the industry has changed. Of course, you still have small pockets of medical providers, but the industry as a whole is a recreational industry. And being a recreational industry, it's capitalist run, because that's what recreation is. It's like the alcohol industry. It's like, it's not, you know, it's all about the money. And it changes the way people work. It changes the way, I was right. MedMen. There we go. I was right. Just say she got it wrong. I got it right. That's cool. Yay, Gloria, I win. So basically, so it's about how the system's changed. Glenn. And I know you still have this professionalism, and you have, you know, like Edward Martin, my colleague, was telling us about a dissection of the US market, that you have this bud tender and you have this extremely knowledgeable, cannabis expert who's guiding you. But in reality, the shop is still a recreational construct. It's not a medicinal construct, which means, you know, the way products are being designed, they're being designed for a recreational market. It's for people who want to get stoned. The majority of products are designed for the stoner market as opposed to the medicinal market. And that's where, you know, glitz and glamour and money and fame and all of that stuff starts coming into the play, as opposed to just doing right by your patients. And he had this conversation with him, and I was also a little bit thrown. I was like, how's the business? How's everything going? He was like, I'm out of it. I was like, why?
Wow.
You know, and he basically dropped this bomb on me, and I was like, I didn't even see it from that angle. And you know, when you've been doing something he's been working at it for close to 25 years, you know, quarter of a century, you build an industry to be something. And the ethos around the entire industry has changed. And it's very similar in the UK in the sense that you started off with companies like us who were, you know, fighting the good fight, convincing people that this legal cannabinoid is something you need in your life. And now, you know, there's a lot of money coming into the space, and when money comes into the space, it controls the dialogue, because now it's no longer from the heart, it's from the wallet, it's from the pocket. And when you start acting from the pocket, it's a different way of acting. And it kind of sent a little bit of a shiver down my spine, because it's like, all right, is this what's going to be in the UK in 5 years' time?
This won't help the argument at all.
Actually, most customers, old like me
needs. Oh, we got. Hang on a minute. Hold your horses. Sleep. The needs for sleep and arthritis, etc.
And we were just talking about his shop, and about I remember being in his shop, and I remember seeing the interaction, and I remember customers coming back and saying things like, you know, this one didn't work for me, but this one did work for me. Can you make sure you hold this in stock for me? And they were like, of course we will. We'll make sure that we always have this in stock for you. And that certain, you know, customer relation, that certain, you know, customer care, that level of customer care, that's kind of dissipated. Yeah, as an individual, you can walk into a shop and you're free to buy whatever you want, but the ethos behind why those products were put on the shelf in the first place has changed. And apparently it's opened some doors but closed other ones. And he was saying, as a legacy cannabis individual, he finds it very difficult to operate in this new world with a slightly different ethos. Just interesting conversation.
It is interesting, but the thing is, it goes against the grain of everything we've been talking about for 71, 72 weeks now.
Why?
Because if it's all for, you use the word stoners, I try and avoid
No, I'm saying the American market.
I get that, but you know, there's a great saying, and I'm sure Gloria, watching in Santa Monica, California, would agree, you know, when America sneezes, Britain catches a cold.
True, but the British system is actually being designed differently. So the American system was always a people-to-people system. The British system has somehow slipped doctors into that equation. So it's people to doctors to people. So the system in the UK is designed differently, and having a medical practitioner in place kind of in one way inhibits, but in another way, so in one way it, you've got someone, a doctor who's had no cannabis education, almost directing the patient, which is bad. But in the other way, having the doctor there means that as the medical system grows, as education starts to disseminate from individuals like me into doctors, as doctors start to understand more about what they're doing, they're in a prime position to maintain the medical relationships which they have with their patients. Unlike in America, there's no doctors. So it's people to people. And when you have a person who is a caregiver and you have a person who is a cannabis capitalist, they operate with the patients in front of them very differently. And I think that's one saving grace in the UK market, especially the legal UK market, is the fact that this doctor has to be in place. It creates this medicalization of the actual process, whereas in America, the medicalization was almost from people to people, as opposed to with a doctor in the middle.
No, I get that.
So that's why I'm not too worried about the UK. I'm not too worried about the UK. Another thing is the other countries similar to us in the UK are Canada, Israel, South America, all of which have positioned a doctor in between a supplier and a patient, which therefore encourages this constant medicalization. With Sandra Carrillo came on, she spoke about it. So it's like Colombia and Peru and
kind of. There's a slight irony. Forgive me for saying so, but of all the places, Colombia, being careful about drugs is
incredible,
extraordinary.
It's incredible.
It's just extraordinary.
And they're doing wonderful things in the cannabis industry, like wonderful things. But I just
this is an interesting comment coming in from California. Doctors can't advise as not legal at a federal level.
Yeah, so that's why. So it's a people. But do you understand what I mean when I say a person-to-person market?
No, I get it.
There's no medical professional in the middle. Now, don't get me wrong. A medical professional doesn't have to be there if you have understanding. And if you understand the products you need for yourself and you can source them on the black market, fine, you don't need a medical professional. But for a lot of people who don't understand cannabis, used to demonize cannabis, used to view cannabis as something negative, I think it's quite important to have someone like a medical professional who they can kind of rely on. And us having forced that system in place means that as a medical system, we're a lot more protected. So even if we were to recreationalize, even if cannabis was to become recreational in the UK, that medical system, which is separate from the recreational system, will still grow and will still, elevate. It's not left in the hands of caregivers, it's left in the hands of medical professionals, which means there's a lot more, what's the word? A lot more rules which need to be followed.
This is good. And the other thing, of course, is this, that with America, if you look at somebody wrong, they're going to sue you. And doctors, the insurance premiums that doctors or anybody in the medical profession have to pay are beyond eye-watering. I mean, a fortune. I mean, the whole system over there is a nightmare, as I'm sure Gloria Miller would attest. I mean, it's crazy. They look at us when we say, I know what I had today done at Guy's Hospital on the NHS, and if you said that in America, they go, well, that's about $1,000. $2,000, probably more.
I had some moles removed from my back. I actually had to go through private insurance. But I mean, like when I saw the bill for what these things would have cost me if I didn't have insurance, it's just like, are you serious? Like $5,500 to cut me off. I've got a buddy at work who had to go for an emergency operation. Couldn't go through the NHS because the waiting time was too long and it was an emergency, and it cost him $5,500 to have a little cut done. It's like crazy what some of these doctors do charge, and that's what they pay in America. They don't have any of this, they have insurances, but they haven't got this NHS which covers things. Everything's paid through the arse. It's crazy.
Gloria Miller says this: my doc's not against it, but not allowed to advise, as even though it's legal here in California, it's not federal. Not federal. Yeah.
The way our system's built in the UK is completely different, and hopefully it maintains a positive ethos. I hope that over the next 5-10 years, the system gets better. The system gets more patient focused. The data is used in order to kind of create a better understanding of what specific patients need over others, and it helps doctors to also learn and understand what they're actually prescribing people. I like the backbones of what a UK-based, medicinally focused, medicinally run medical cannabis industry can do. You know, that whole medicinally focused, medically run, it makes it very important, and it kind of gives almost a little bit more longevity, as opposed to in America where they don't have these rules at play. It forces the capitalist to kind of come out, and you know, a caregiver can never compete with a capitalist. Someone who's doing something for the right reasons and someone who's doing something for profit, the person who's doing things for profit will always win. Why? Because it's for profit. So therefore they will always be more willing to push themselves further, whereas someone who's doing something for another person, they kind of keep themselves to themselves. You know, it's more of an emotional journey than a commercial journey. And the emotional journeys are harder.
Emotional connection rather than a financial connection. The lawyer's asking, how much do you now pay for national health insurance? I can't remember.
It's like £8 a month or something.
It's relatively peanuts.
It's all depending on your wage.
Relatively very low.
I think it works out
in the great scheme of things.
It's 8% of your wage, isn't it, or something like that?
Whatever it is.
Not even 4% of your wage.
I mean, you know, I think, you know, if Americans came over here and you showed them what was available, they would just faint.
What's also interesting about the UK market, to go back onto that, found out today, actually, the numbers are steadily increasing. So there's about 25 new medical cannabis clinics out there. There's about 100 doctors now. Last time we had a guest on the show, they said there were about 50 doctors and about 5 clinics. Now
45, 50 doctors, I think they said. So
yeah, now there's about 100 doctors, like on the cusp of 150. Do you know, they work in those sort of things. They said they're on 100, but they'll be at 150 soon. All right. And they said that there's about 1,500 patients a month who are signing up. So there's about a 10% growth every single month on the market. And at the moment, there's about 15,000 patients, which is very, very good news. And apparently they are, you know, more and more of them are being taken care of properly, which is good. It's just about finding the right clinic, guys. I think that's the main thing with this.
If you think about it, the money that it could, let's put a proviso in there, a caveat, that could save the national health, could be enormous.
Of course.
I mean,
also, the main thing is that the money will save the police. That's the main thing. Everyone talks about the national health, not national health. The money medical cannabis will save the police, okay, is absolutely astronomical. You know, like hundreds of millions of pounds are spent every year policing cannabis. Hundreds of millions of pounds to police people like me who are not drug dealers, who consume cannabis, you know, recreationally, medicinally. People like me are the ones who waste police time in that sort of, you know, in that regard. And theoretically, if we all went legal, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds every single year will not be spent policing us. Why? Because we're all legal. It's like, imagine if everyone drove without a driving license. You know, if everyone out there with a car didn't have a driving license, how much money it would cost the police to police us. All right. It's the same thing. We have a license which enables us to smoke legally. If we get it, they don't have to police us anymore. Our taxes will probably come down eventually. Probably. Just throwing it out there.
Just bear in mind, Ollie, and don't say that I was alive at the time, but taxes initially, apart from, you know, like the Sheriff of Nottingham and everything, particularly were enforced to pay for the Napoleonic Wars, which, to the best of my knowledge, ended quite some time ago. And they never changed the taxes. So just a little thing, they never reduced the taxes, which is why so much stuff under the guise of COVID has been sneaked in, and they won't reverse that legislation. Guarantee that legislation won't.
Did not know that. Did not know that.
Well, so, you know, under that's what everyone has been saying, and I didn't agree with it at first. And then I can see that they were right. I thought they were conspiracy nutters, and they're not. You know, so much stuff has been shoved shoved through. Well, everyone was thinking, please don't let me die, please don't let me die. And through COVID-19, the last 2+ years, and there's laws, legislations, all sorts of stuff which has not been rescinded. And I'm talking on a worldwide, you know, Canada, perfect example.
Mental.
Perfect example. There we go. Now,
mental world.
But as I've always said, and I've argued this from no position of cannabis expertise, unlike yourself or CBD or any of the terpenes or anything like that, it'll all come down to money eventually. I know that goes against the grain, but it'll come down to money. And if they can see the economic benefit, the government will go,
It's
being
almost, but the
ridiculous.
thing
Being
is cannabis
being
has
ridiculous.
always cost money. Do you know what I mean? It's always cost money. Cannabis has never been free. Even people who grow cannabis, it costs them money to grow cannabis. You know, it costs them money, it costs them time, it costs them effort. Money is time, time is effort. It's all the same. That it's all connected. And fact of the matter is cannabis has always cost money to grow. It's like people who say, I grow vegetables and my vegetables are free. Your vegetables aren't free. You spent 4 hours a day growing your vegetables. That shit takes time. It's money. Do you know what I mean?
But you don't, people, my argument with that would be this. You don't grow vegetables so you don't have pop down to Aldi, Lidl or Tesco so you can't buy a vegetable for 25p or 20p. You grow it for the satisfaction. There's a huge satisfaction
Some
in
people
starting with.
some people like knowing where their fruit and vegetable come
I
from.
don't blame them. Why wouldn't
I've
they?
got a few buddies who don't grow for satisfaction; they grow for survival. You know, they have their cabbage
And what do they
patch.
think if they
They're like
go,
little
if they
cabbage
go to
patch
Tesco's?
kids.
What do they think is going to happen if they wash the fruit?
No, they're just they're under the impression that eventually in the next few years, food's just going to not be available on the face of the earth. In fact, the matter is, if you don't grow, you're not going to be able to. They're literally survivalists. It's that whole idea of if I don't grow, I'm going to die. So I'm just saying it like
Well, let me tell
that
you,
still costs money and time. These guys have still had to buy
totally.
farms.
Everything, yeah, but
Everything costs
doing.
money. And if you're not
Everything
paying
that's
today,
worth-
you're paying tomorrow. And there's one thing which everyone seems to forget. Cannabis has always cost you money one way or another. You know, I understand that some prices might be exorbitant. However, if you actually figured out the mathematics of how much anything ever costs you, everything's exorbitant. And if you actually figured out the fact that, you know, you're growing your cannabis and you've got your room upstairs, what that room is worth in rent on a monthly basis, you've got your electricity, you've got your gas, you've got your plant pots, you've got your genetics.
You know, and Gloria out in California will know that the costs of energy, electricity and gas are they're skyrocketing.
California
so that's going to be a
mental.
huge factor.
In the last 4 years, their petrol has gone up 4 times. As in, like, we think we're bad. We've gone up maybe 30%. They were paying $2.5. They were paying like $25 to fill up their tanks. Now they're paying $100. I mean, it literally has gone up 4 times, 400% markup.
And come November, when it's the midterms, the population of America will make their feelings very, very, very
mental.
clear.
It's mental being out there.
I was going to say, and your friends are not that daft. You'd normally think I'd poo-poo it, but I'm not going to. I did on my daily show some weeks ago, way ahead of the curve, by chance. I can't pretend that it was my genius. I wish it was, but it's not. Somebody said, would you like to do this? I said, yeah. And we interviewed on the Daily Show a farmer in Ukraine. Now, my ignorance is this, and I know you're listening and watching all over the world. My ignorance is this. Ukraine, I couldn't have actually told you particularly where it was, and I thought it was maybe the size of, I don't know, something small, Surrey or something. Turns out it's bigger than Texas. And what I didn't know when I was talking to this farmer, who was the
largest producer of grain in Europe.
Precisely, it is the bread.
I've heard this as well, and it's just it's terrifying me.
Understand this, but let me just spell it out. Let me just spell this out. That Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. Something I did not know.
Not just
Europe. Doesn't affect.
Not just Europe, Russ. And Africa.
No.
Without Africa.
What's going to happen is this. Europe, not so bad. It supplies most of North Africa with their grain. Most of North Africa. Now, because Putin and his gang are doing their best to destroy the work that the farmers can do, that grain cannot be harvested, right? You're dodging missiles and bullets. I mean, literally, or you've had to leave the country. And these are huge farms. We're not talking about some little, patch.
Thousands of acres.
Which is massive, right?
Thousands of acres.
That food will not be going to North Africa. And before anybody says, well, why don't they grow it themselves? Have you seen the ground there? You could grow a cactus.
It's one step further. It's not about the ground. It's about the finances. Like setting up agriculture costs money. You need water. You need equipment. You need expertise. It's a science at the end of the day. And I was having the same conversation because no one actually quite understands that when the harvest doesn't come this year, like literally whatever you can imagine made out of grain, you don't have it anymore. Mass-produced, all mass-produced pasta, all of the grain comes from Ukraine. It goes from Ukraine to Italy. Italy mass produces the pasta, ships out to the world. All right, like all of the grain in Africa, and it's all done on trade agreements. So we'll give you grain, you give us minerals, precious metals, whatever the hell you can mine. It's all like on trade agreements. Ukraine's the only country who's ever stepped up to the plate to take care of Africa on this trade agreement. And you're gonna like millions of Africans are gonna die. Like millions are just gonna starve to death. And it's just there's a whole nother the whole can of worms is about to get opened, and no one's got any idea. Us naive brains thinking that.
And the fabulous thing, because I watch mostly American stuff every evening, and this is to do with mental health and well-being, which is the overriding umbrella of the ABC of CBD. And it's this: in America, their view is, and I understand this, I'm not being critical. They go, well, you know, we don't want boots on the ground. It's nothing to do with that. It's the other side of the world. And I say to my American chums, and I write about it, it's a 2-hour flight. It's not even you crossing Texas. It's a 2-hour, you know, what is it? 2.5 hours? Boom, you're in Ukraine. It's around the corner. And these ramifications are huge.
And the thing is, if the world doesn't care, then the world are those who are going to suffer. And that's the biggest problem right now. It's almost like we're saying things like it's not our fight, it's not our problem. But in reality, it's so our problem. It's so our fight. And that's the biggest issue right now. It actually is like we are on the cusp of another global disaster. And after the fact we've just had COVID, which has basically destroyed every personality of every individual living on the face of the earth.
Well, it's
we're
about
to.
I wouldn't say destroy, but it's certainly had a very detrimental effect on everybody's mental health.
It's mental. It's literally mental.
You know,
and we're going to have this whole new wave.
Trying to get coming back to like some of Gloria's points about the NHS, you need psychiatric care unless you are threatening to self-harm or to end your own life. I'm trying to use the correct terminology that we should use these days. You will find getting psychiatric care very, very difficult because the demand is enormous.
Demand is enormous. And also,
this is such a good point, Gloria. I wasn't going to say it, but you've said it for me. America came in too late to the Holocaust. Yeah, I mean, can't argue about it. Can't argue. There you go. But this is, you know, it's not. And then we must move on. This isn't some fight in some far off place where you go. This is Europe. This is Europe. No one thought we'd see another war in Europe again. Boom. It's diabolical.
It's insane.
And another of my guests on a new series which hasn't aired yet, which is called Shrinking the World. It's a top Harley Street psychiatrist interviewing people from all over the world. Absolutely amazing.
This sounds incredible, by the way. Everyone should tune into this show. It sounds incredible.
This is going to be very cool. And we had an expert. It's not I was just producing. I'm not part of it. I'm not pretending I am. We just put it together. And Putin will probably go. The trouble is when you're weeks ahead of what's happening, you're going, we saw this coming and no one did anything. Putin will undoubtedly use nerve gas next. That's what he's going to do. Don't forget, he supplied Assad in Syria with the nerve gas. So he doesn't have any problem in using it. For him, it's a scare tactic. He doesn't care what it does. It's like a scare tactic to scare the population.
It's just another card in his hand, isn't it?
Yeah,
just to throw down on the table.
And that's it. And we're all going to have to sit here with our hand, with our bottoms on our hands, thinking, well, what can we do? What can we do? And everybody's feeling bad. And that stress level is affecting everybody. Everyone's very, very stressed. And it's not like, oh, we're in Hampstead and we're so upset. It's not that. People are genuinely stressed. It's very different in Europe than it is in America because it seems so distant over there. I get that. Of course it is. Now, looking to the future, Mr. Oliver Mammon.
Just quickly, before we move on to that, just a little side note. Veronica, if you can hear me, send a message. How's your prescription coming along?
There she is. Look at that. Boom, straight away. I'll put it up. It says, we've got a guy who goes tomorrow. Oh, bless you. We've got a guy who goes tomorrow with a third van of supplies, medical, food, pet supplies. It's so sad what's happening in our world. It is bloody awful. And I honestly think we have retrograded over the last 5-10 years. We have just retrograded. But
Veronica, answer my question. How's your prescription coming along so we can
how's it going?
move on to something happier? Let's talk about you. Let's talk about how
Let's talk about
has
Veronica.
your medical
Let's talk about
cannabis
Veronica
helped you,
and
Veronica?
Gloria. When she comes over, I'm going to introduce you.
I'm dying
She's
to meet Gloria.
Gloria is hilarious.
Gloria's been an awesome fan of ours as well.
Gloria, it's like being hit by a tidal wave. She's
the energy, right?
Just a huge bundle of energy, and very funny too.
What do you reckon would happen when me and Gloria were in the room together? Do you reckon the world
I'm
would
leaving
implode?
because I couldn't take it.
Are you also a woo girl?
Saying
it's nice having definite strains.
It's nice having definite. What does that mean? I've no idea.
I've got no idea what she means either.
Veronica, what does that mean?
Maybe she meant to say different strains.
Don't know. And Gloria's going, ha ha ha.
Just curious. I'm curious how it's going. Veronica. I hope it's going well. I hope they're taking care of you. And like the numbers are going up. So every week, more and more people are joining. And like we said a couple of weeks ago, the more people who join the system, the more demands you can make, the more the power's in your hand. And when we first started selling CBD 5-6 years ago, it really was a buyer's market. They decided which products were good, which products were bad. After a couple of years, it became a seller's market because more and more people wanted to get involved. Same as where we are right now. Right now, it's a buyer's market. Okay. If you do not like what's being prescribed to you by one of your clinics, change clinic. If you do not like the service being given to you by one of your clinics, change clinic. Now is not the time. Now is not the time to empower people who are not doing right by you. Now is the time to empower people who are doing right by you, to empower people who do care, to empower people who do make a difference in your life. And it's very, very important that any patient listening to this understands how valuable and powerful you are to the shaping of the future medical cannabis industry in the UK. What you guys say will go, but you need to be vocal about it. You need to be active about it. And if someone is one of these clinics, one of these farms is not facilitating you in the way you need to be facilitated, you need to find somewhere better. And you need to vocalize it to your doctor. You need to vocalize it to your directional officer, the person who sends you to where you're going, and make sure that you are being taken care of by a company who actually deserves to have you as a patient. And it's very important you all disseminate this information to other patients you know. It's not about them supplying you. It's about you agreeing with the supply they've given you and about you agreeing with the care you're getting, the service you're getting. It's the most important thing. I don't type quick. Having the strains indica and sativa helps the pain, definitely. I've also slowed oil to see what's happening with my prescription. Perfect. So she's reduced the amount of oil she's taking in order to see how she's reacting to the different strains she's getting, and having her daytime strain in her sativa, her indica for her nighttime strain enables her to manage her meds better. I am ad-libbing what I assume Veronica is thinking based on my interactions with other patients and my interactions with her. So, and she's stopped using the oil, stopped using the edibles in order to kind of understand whether or not her prescription's helping her better. Brilliant.
Because otherwise it would be masked. Is that what you're
masked,
saying?
or if not, she's taking something which is already working for her and then using something else on top of that. And it's like, if you're drinking 3 cups of water a day and that's enough, and you're thinking maybe I might be dehydrated, maybe I'll drink 5. You've got to stop drinking those 3 in order to drink 2 more to see. Do you understand what I mean? That actually didn't make sense.
No,
that actually didn't make sense.
But in other words, in order to see the effectiveness of something, you may have to stop to see if she's taking A and B and A is working, but B she doesn't know is working. She has to stop taking A to see if B actually is functional. Okay.
That made sense. The first one made no sense. I'm looking at myself. I'm thinking it literally made no sense, Ollie.
No, mate, I get that.
Now I'm going to talk to myself a little bit.
The bottom line with this is that Veronica has made progress.
I love it. I'm so proud of you, Veronica. I'm so proud of you.
The bottom line, even more importantly, is that the pain is being alleviated, and that
is all that matters.
That's a win, and that is all that matters. If you don't think, by the way, I know this is a slight tangent, but bear with me for a sec. I've always believed with people power, and companies only take note when you hit them where it hurts. The only place it hurts is their bottom line. They don't give a monkeys about you. They don't care about customer service and all this. It's lip service. Netflix,
big problem in this industry right now,
Netflix,
is this.
Well, let me
this
just
lip
tell
service.
you this. Netflix, which was unassailable, Yesterday on the stock market, Netflix crashed 37%, and they've lost millions of subscribers. Now, a 37% drop.
Why?
I'll tell you exactly why. Combination of two things. One, the pricing, because it's gone high. But two, and this is my point, people didn't like, this is on the American Stock Exchange, people did not like the content. There's a great saying, go woke, go broke. So when you're perpetrating something and saying, this is our narrative, people go, do you know what? Fine, but it's not for me. I'm out of here. You want to hit people where the only time they'll sit up and take notice of you as an individual is when you're off. You vote with your wallet.
And
It's going to be
got
the
to bear
same
in
with this
mind as well.
industry.
Netflix have had a very interesting 2 years, because for 2 years we had COVID, and what did we all do during COVID? We stayed at home and we watched TV. And over that 2 year period, Netflix shares went up by like fucking 6 times. It went
It was
insane,
huge.
absolutely huge. But now it's summertime. We're all started going out a hell of a lot more, you know, and actually our TV consumption has dropped dramatically. Most of us are working from offices again. Most of us are working full time again, which means that before we were watching, you know, Netflix probably from 5 a.m. What's it called? 9 o'clock in the morning until like 1 o'clock in the morning. No one's doing that anymore. You know, I'm pretty sure, just like me, you had series just playing constantly over COVID.
Life is slowly coming back. If, as an indication, I've been on the tube and bus all day today, man of the people.
Hell yeah.
And packed. Absolutely bloody heaving.
That's it. I also spent the day in town today. I ended up going to Green Park for a meeting.
I was
there.
It
was incredible.
You're joking me. I was in Green Park.
Are you serious?
I was at Green Park Station twice today.
What time?
I don't know.
Tell me what time you were at Green Park Station.
Just sort of 3. What time did I get there? What am I talking about? I was there about 1ish, 10 past 1, something like that.
You literally walked past me. Were you coming in or going out?
I was going out because I had a meeting in
Parkside or street side?
No, I always go to the other side.
Fine. So I was on Parkside walking in as you were on street side walking out. That's amazing. I love that shit. Still,
imagine how weird was that?
If we hadn't met last week and we had done that today,
that would have freaked me out. But you wouldn't have known it was me because you never seen me sideways on. Gloria's saying this. We've got Hulu, HBO Max, Peacock. I don't know what that is. I presume is that
these are all different streaming sites.
Peacock, is that an offshoot of NBC or CBS? Whichever one's got the Peacock logo. I should know. I don't. You got Apple, you got Roku, etc., etc. Yep.
You have, and then you also have Disney, and then you also have, you know, what's it called? You have Disney, and you have.
Well, that's being hit as well. That's being
Sky have also basically they've got their own streaming thing now as well. It's mental. It's all mental.
And it will eventually. NBC. I was right. It was NBC. It was rubbish.
But it's very important, guys, that you know you learn from all these things, because you are powerful as a people. And what Russ is saying is right. Unless you take this into your own hands, the systems will never get better around you. But like to bring this back into our world, if you do have issues with your medical marijuana supplier, change supplier and make a point of telling them why you're leaving them. And make a point and tell all your mates who also have prescriptions with them why you're leaving them. Why? Because if you've been hard done by, the chances are other people are also being hard done by. However, when you're in a vulnerable position and you finally got help and you finally found what you've been searching for the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, some of you people have been suffering for, and you've never had help, and you finally get it, you get vulnerable and you're like, well, I don't want my help to be taken away from me.
Yes,
but another thing to bear in mind, there are other people out there who can also help you now. The medical cannabis system in the UK is not what it was 3 years ago. It's not a monopoly anymore. There's not 1 or 2 companies who can help you. The prices are no longer exorbitant. There are some people you can get a £50 prescription from, and then the cost of a £50 consultation from, and the cost of prescriptions has dropped by 50%. Okay, there are companies out there who want to help you. They want to nurture you. They want to take you on your journey the way you deserve to be taken that way. So if you have any qualms in the service you're getting, leave. Okay, leave, empower yourself, and go to a different clinic.
And get hold of Ollie, and he can make some recommendations.
Hell yeah, I know a couple of very good clinics in the UK. If you're starting a clinic, So I don't know if I could say it because it's like I found out information. A
No,
couple of
it's
actually,
inside information.
a couple of our really good guests are actually starting clinics, which is pretty
Well,
cool. And a couple of people who weren't involved in that side, you know, real advocates, real people who have put themselves on the front line for people they love. They've also started clinics now. So it's like almost this compassionate care and capitalism is coming together. Guys, put yourself in a nurturing basket. Like put yourself somewhere where you're cared about. I think that's very important.
I like that nurturing basket.
Yeah. Came from
Here's
here.
a stupid example. Because of all the work we do on MRS, I have to keep up with the news and all that sort of stuff and other places that I broadcast on. And so I subscribed. I'm not going to say which broadsheet it was. It's a very well-known British broadsheet. They said, we're putting our prices up. And I looked at that and I thought, geez, I don't think so. I was shocked at what they put it up to. So I phoned them up. You had to phone, couldn't do it online. That's how much they didn't want you to leave. So I'm sorry, I'm off. And they said, why? And this is all to do with what Ollie's saying about, you know, the power's in your hand. I said, because your prices have gone through the roof, you know, and I don't have that fat that needs trimming, frankly, off my incomes, etc. It's too much. Well, can we offer you the deal? They'd gone. It was a newspaper thing. They wanted to put it up to around about 13 quid. And he said, well, we can do it for this. Eventually, he said, well, how about £2? Right? This is a huge organization. And I said, if you could have offered it to me for £2 in the first place, and you wanted to put it up to nearly £13, I said, no, because I don't want to be treated like
15% of the value.
And I said, and I'm still off. And he got really, really annoyed. But that's what you can do. Isn't it extraordinary, isn't it? They just treat us like everywhere you go, you're treated like a mug. You're treated like a mug. And that's why you have to fight for your corner. It's so important. And find people like Ollie that you can trust.
Do you know what's really funny? Like really, really funny. Oh, this is so funny. It's actually terrible. It's like really terrible. But I find it absolutely hilarious because I'm sick in the head. So basically, over the last 2 weeks, you know, over the last few months, we've been talking about the thing novel food. All right.
Yeah,
you know, we've been talking about
novel food.
The novel food list has come out. All right.
Right.
So every legal CBD product out there has now officially come out onto the marketplace. We all know which ones are legal, which ones are not. And Taylor Mammon, my company, we've got like 8% of the total market is products which we manufacture. Wow. So 8% of the legal products in the UK are ours, and there's probably like another 4 or 5% of companies we manufacture for and work with who are not our IP, but we still own their recipes and whatever. So it's incredible. I mean, like literally blown it out of the water. I cannot believe we've done so well. Every single one of my competitors who actually was a decent competitor, never to be seen again. It's hilarious. It's so funny.
Walk us through this because they live and breathe this. I don't.
They have all done something tricky. Every single one of them has done something tricky, and they've just like there are companies who have been huge, bigger than us, who have just disappeared overnight.
It's gone.
David Beckham, God bless his little soul, okay, had a little company called Cellular Goods. Okay, now Cellular Goods was based, God bless his little cotton socks. Now, David Beckham's company IPO'd for something like, I don't know, 10 million quid. They did a fundraise. All right, Beckham had like 5, 10, 15, 20% of this company. His shareholding keeps on coming down every time you read a new article. All of his products have been taken off the marketplace. Every single one. It's all over the media. It's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. Why? Because they were all chances. So what's quite nice is a lot of the garbage which would have been forced down your throat as being appropriate product, all been removed from the marketplace. And it's so funny. It's so funny because it's all of the, I want to call it the bigger fish.
Just be serious for a second. Well, I know you always are. Is this because you,
it's because we make stuff properly and the due diligence which we do.
And could see a longer view.
So what happens is when you make a product, it's about making it properly. And when you make a product properly, you have the right documentation behind it. You have the right analysis behind it. You put the right thought. You put as much thought behind the product as you do in front of it. So it's not let's design this, let's stick a face on it, and let's see what we can sell it for. It's let's give this product as much of a foundation as possible to make sure it's as stable as we think it is, and as as beneficial in every single capacity, from a top end, from a bottom end, from a paperwork perspective, all the way down to what's in the bottle. And it's about doing things properly. We've done things properly. Taylor Mammon has done things properly to the point where we are now officially, we always were one of the biggest companies out there because we did things properly. We are now officially one of the biggest companies in pretty much Europe to supply CBD products. And it's very funny because all of the bells and the whistles, so all of these people who threw millions at an idea without actually putting much thought behind it, they've all screwed themselves. And all of these lies and all of these marketing techniques,
the get quick rich
schemers, all of the capitalists who didn't really think about what they were doing but thought they were doing it right, and who didn't take advice from the right people, they took advice from the wrong people. They've all just disappeared. And it's quite funny because you see 4 years worth of work disappear in 3 minutes. And I've never seen
it. They're not being quoted on the. I don't know if they were on the stock market or not. I didn't follow it that closely. But does that mean that they've gone, or if they're
there's loads of different statements coming out. The main thing is when products start being pulled from shelves, they're never going to get put back on there again. You know, that's just what happens. If Sainsbury's pulls you off the shelf and Sainsbury's is embarrassed to have you on their shelves because you are illegal, don't think you're going to get back onto those shelves. Another thing is if you've put money into a company who's screwed up this badly, I mean, you're not going to go put money into that company again. They've messed up in the biggest possible way. I mean, it's literally like a doping scandal when, you know, like for an Olympic team. That's how bad this is. That's how misled they've been. And I'm really happy.
Who would they have? And don't mention names. I do not want to get into the legality of that nightmare. But if they didn't go to somebody like you and your business partners who know what the hell they're doing, who would they go to say, look, we're going to raise? See?
They went to charlatans. They went to.
But these charlatans were presenting themselves as experts.
Were positioned as ports of knowledge, and people who presented themselves as experts, and people who basically conned people. It sounds really messed up, but they conned people. But they conned. I want to say they conned the right people to con. Because if you're in this industry, over the last 5 years, you can see people who do things properly, and then everyone who offers you that for a quarter of the price, you know it's a con. And it seems like all of the quarter of the price people, they've all been conned. Anyone who, you know, literally sells you a bottle
I can hear my dad's voice going, if it's too good to be true,
it usually is. True. And what happens is we've got a lot of grief over the last years. You guys are expensive. You know, you guys can't do the things that other companies say they can do. Yeah, because other companies have been lying through their teeth to you. And Taylor Mammon has maintained this shield of honesty, which now I get to stand behind and laugh. And it's quite funny because it's good for the people. The people no longer have to deal with the garbage. The people no longer have to deal with products which are not consistent. And the people no longer have to deal with the charlatans. And it's kind of like, I said something from the very beginning. I go, when the market is officially at a point where it regulates itself to the point where every product is actually made properly, my work is done. All right. As soon as like products are made properly, I'm done in this industry. I don't need to do anything else. And we're there. And I love the fact that so only the last week or so, when all these stories have come out post novel food, we've done things properly. The market is now in a place where things are being done properly, and the quality is there. And the heart is there, and it seems like all the people who did things right are there. You have a few people who did try and do things right, who unfortunately latched themselves onto some bad people. But you know, the good people will always find a way of getting back to the surface. And Taylor Mammon's here to help in any capacity. If anyone out there needs help, if anyone out there is in a tricky situation,
reach out to Ollie.
Reach out, and you know, like if we can help in any capacity, you know, we're here.
And Veronica's saying from Edinburgh, she's saying they use people who have only money in mind over quality for the buyer,
and the patient is all that matters.
For the end user. And I don't blame, and you're going to be surprised I'm going to say this, but I am going to say I don't blame somebody like David Beckham because he's looking for an investment opportunity. I'm sure he did it, and I'm not just saying this for legal reasons. It's because
Beckham. I feel bad for David because David was conned.
This was going to be good.
Yeah, I feel bad for David because David was conned. I also feel bad for David because David's been ripped to shreds as if he started the company. But the bigger thing, the main reason is
if you put yourself up as
I was in contact with David Beckham's advisor about 4.5 years ago. And the exact words to me were, "We found someone better." So I'm like, you know what, mate? Good for you. And I love it. God. And it's I could tell, look, I can drop the names. I'm not going to do it, but they all know who they are. And it's just very funny. It's a very funny small world we live in. And
but the trouble is, it's not fair on him to blame. But you're
of
not. Of
course, it's fair, dude. Like, listen. Unfortunately, when you're the golden boot, you can get blamed for. You're allowed to get blamed for screwing things up.
If you are he's the face of a brand of whiskey. Wouldn't be my cup of tea, but I get it. They've done a very clever marketing job. If you know anything
Club,
about
right?
It's Hay Club. It looks very nice.
Really bad whiskey.
It's not to your taste.
It's not to my taste. Is it to your taste?
It's not to my taste.
If anyone drinks Hay Club, can you please write a message and say it's to your taste?
I'm not going to stand here and say it's bad whiskey. It's not the whiskey for me, or indeed it would appear for you. But you don't go turn around and say, well, because he didn't distill it. He didn't do all the work. He is the glamorous face of a brand, and I think he would probably thinking he could transfer that. He's a handsome fellow. He's got a lot of charisma. Blah blah.
David
blah, blah,
Beckham CBD brand sourced investment based on the fact that it was David Beckham CBD brand, and David Beckham, unfortunately, backing this brand has conned a load of other people who can't afford to lose the money like David's lost. All right, into supporting David Beckham going into something. Why? Because he's the golden boy. He's never going to let anyone down. And I personally feel like it's not the right way to behave, especially when it comes to something like.
But Ollie,
but this is not alcohol, Russ. This is.
I understand. No, I understand that.
Am I getting you into a lawsuit? Is that the problem?
Yeah, all I'm saying is this: these are commercial ventures. Some commercial ventures are successful, and some, probably the majority, fail. That's life, and that's the brutal lesson that people learn. It is what I'm getting from this is that you spoke to someone and said, "Oh, we found someone better," and you stood back for 4.5 years, and then
I've just watched the whole thing go up, and I've watched the whole IPO. And you want something funny? I had everyone turn around to me, and you're definitely going to get involved in this, aren't you? I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, and I advise so many people not to get involved. A lot of people I know got involved against my better judgment. Everyone's got hurt.
Was there not a point? I can't believe the show's nearly finished. Was there not a point when you thought, "Oh man, I've missed this boat"?
No, never in a million years. Why? Really? Because I believe in what I do. I know what my journey is. I know that I hold true to something, and it's like backing something I don't believe in is never going to be part of my life. And fact of the matter is backing a concept which is driven by a face is different from backing a concept which is driven by an ethos, by a soul, and by an emotion. And I will always back emotion, soul-based businesses.
The trouble is, this is the stupid world we live in. The world of quotes celebrity, the most useless word on the planet, quite frankly. Celebrity and talent, another useless word. And people think, oh well, if it's a shirt or it's a brand of boots or some trousers, and I put it's fine. It's different when you're dealing with an end user who
relies on the product. And also, when you're
buy
dealing...
whiskey, like you don't buy it again. Big deal. Who cares? Buy some trousers. They're not for you. Who cares? But when I'm not going to use the word desperate, but somebody like Veronica, and you really need this stuff, people do care. That's the difference. That's why I take what we do on MRS. I take it seriously because I get so many private messages, none of which I will ever talk about because they're private to me and the directive, obviously they want confidentiality. And if we give it, I never give advice. I never give advice.
Don't sue Russ, sue me. Okay, so at least we can chat. Maybe find a good cannabis investment for you. I just want to get in conversation. Just want to finish our conversation.
I understand that.
Imagine I get a phone call from David tomorrow. Heard you were slagging me off last night. How brilliant. I'll be like, oh my God, yes, David. Fucked up, didn't you? I'm not going to do that. Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
I'm sure. You know what? I've never met.
I'm sure he's absolutely lovely.
I would imagine.
I feel really bad.
I'm really very.
I actually am sorry. I've got a lot of respect for you as a human being. So I'm just disappointed with you in this.
He seems like a very decent guy, and they've.
My muzzle top, by the way, on your kids' on your kids' wedding. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah,
that was a thing. There we go. Well, that's it.
That is the hour.
That's the hour. And we didn't even touch upon the new, and we're not going to talk about it now. I'm going to have to leave you hanging like an old episode of Batman
Hell
when I
yeah.
was a kid.
To be
Even the
continued.
new stuff that Ollie and I have been talking about, which is going to be absolutely blooming fascinating. And, you
It's
know,
gonna
I
be
know
great.
Ollie is chomping at the bit to start with it, and we'll be off and running in, over the next few weeks with it, and keeping this and the new thing. It's exciting. And then after this show, I'm going to drop a little bombshell on my pal, Mr. Oliver Mammon. I just want to see his face. That's it. Until next Thursday at 6 o'clock, try and stay out of trouble. Bye, gang.
Peace out.